Today is August 29th, 2019,
Yeah.
and I am conducting an interview. Could you please tell me your name?
My name is George Durnford, but everybody calls me Dutch. Most people around here don't even know my first name.
Uh-huh.
Everybody calls me Dutch. I think Marge calls me Dutch. Yeah.
All right. And where were you born and when?
Well, Wrestling Center. You never heard of it, probably.
I've heard of it. Hmm.
Yeah. In 1923, December 1st, 1923.
All right.
I'm an old buzzard.
Uh-huh. And so, what was your family's background? Were they immigrants or were they?
Well, yeah, my dad is from Ireland or England, and my mother was from Ireland. Her background anyway, they weren't from there, but that's where their background is from. So I'm English and Irish, but they call me Dutch.
So what did they do for a living?
Is what?
What did your parents do for a living?
Oh, my dad was. My mother didn't work. She just took care of a family of seven. And my dad did a lot of different jobs, but he was. I remember him mostly for him being a photographer.
Okay.
Yeah. But my mother never. She just took care of her family.
Okay. And then did you grow up in that area?
What's that?
Did you grow up around Richland Center?
Oh, yeah. I was born and raised in Richland Center. I left there when I was 18 because that's when I joined the Air Force. I was 18 6 days before Pearl Harbor.
Oh
So
my.
I knew I'd be drafted, and I saw a little sign in front of the post office that said, "You too can be an aviation cadet." So I went down to Truxfield, took the mental and physical exams, and I joined the Air Force. And they didn't call me in until I was a little later than that, but I joined when I was 18. And
Wow.
I went through I went through fighter pilot training, and of course I went through. They had young. See, I was only 18, so they sent me to college for a little while because they figured Air Force guys need a little college training. Anyway, and then I went through fighter pilot training. I went through fighter pilot training when I just about got done with fighter pilot training. The Air Force decided they didn't need any more fighter pilots. They had plenty because the Luftwaffe was no longer with a danger to us. So they sent me back for navigation. So then I became a navigator on a B-17 bomber. That's how I became a navigator.
Wow.
I went through pilot training first, and then they decided they didn't need any. They had plenty of fighter pilots already because they didn't need any more because the Luftwaffe was knocked out. They didn't need them anymore, so they sent us all back. They sent me back for navigation. So that's how I became a navigator. Yeah.
And what do you remember about Pearl Harbor when that happened?
Well, I didn't know too much about Pearl Harbor but I wasn't involved at all, and I didn't live near there or anything, so I didn't know any more than anybody else about Pearl Harbor, I guess. Just a real shock, of course, and as an 18-year-old at the time, I realized that there was going to be a war, and in fact, Roosevelt declared war then after that. But anyway, that's how I got into the Air Force, as a result of Pearl Harbor, really.
And Where were you on your tours of duty? Where did you go?
Well, I I had several bombing missions. The one that's significant, of course, is my last one, which was a mission in Berlin, bombing mission in Berlin. That's where I was wounded, and they. I spent 17 months in hospitals as a consequence of my wounds. Lost the. I have a very odd situation here. This arm is. I was hit in my. Well, when we were over Berlin, we of course we bombed Berlin. Then they didn't like that, so they fired back at us, and they. Four of us in that mission. There's 9 guys in a bombing crew, and 4 of us were wounded. 2 of them very seriously, and so anyway, I thought that I was hitting my right arm first and then I put this arm up because it burned in my shoulder. I put this arm up, and it was in front of me when another shell came up and took out my middle part of my arm.
Oh my
If
God.
my arm hadn't been there, it had hit me in the chest.
Oh my.
So I'm grateful to this arm for saving my life, really. But I don't. But it took out. It took out all my the middle part of my arm, and so of course when you're flying at 30,000 feet, it's awful cold up there, so you got real heavy jackets on. So over Berlin, I had a real heavy jacket on, and after I was hit, I looked at my jacket and I could just see the edges of my jacket. I thought my arm was shot off. But then after a little while there, I was sitting there, I could wiggle my fingers. So I looked down, and the bottom part of my arm was down below me. So I reached down, picked it up, put it on my desk.
Oh my.
And it was just a very peculiar thing. Then the guy that put my arm back together again was a genius, I think. But he said, now I don't have, they tell me it's the only arm like that in the world because I don't have any elbow and I don't have any tricep muscles. They were shot out.
Wow.
And so I spent 17 months in several hospitals and very grateful to my arm for that. But yeah, it's
So then when did you end up moving to Monona?
well, after the war, I went to college on the GI Bill, like so many did. I didn't have any money, so I went through college on the GI Bill, and then it's there's so many things that happen that you don't. A lot of them are just not very interesting to anybody. I'm not sure because I graduated from college, and then I wanted to be a lawyer, so I was accepted at Marquette Law School, and I was about ready to start when I found out that my GI Bill had run out, and I was broke, so I couldn't go through law school. So I ended up as teaching economics. I taught economics for 28 years at Monona, and had all seniors, and really enjoyed it.
So you came to Monona to teach.
Uh-huh.
You came to Monona to be a teacher then.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And
When was that? Around what time?
19. Let's see. Is that odd? I got 19, uh, 1959, in the 1950s, I don't know exactly.
Okay.
Sure, the 1950s.
And
And
where did you live in Monona?
and what?
Where did you live?
Oh, I lived at on Pheasant Hill Road.
Okay.
And just a couple blocks from City Hall, 3 blocks, I guess. And I really enjoyed my working with the government there in Monona.
What did you do with?
Well, like I said, I was on the Police and Fire Commission for over 25 years, and on the Public Safety Commission for over 25 years. And one of the things that's different about being on boards in a city is that you don't have to, see here in Monona at Oakwood, they are responsible for all the equipment that's in our rooms. The equipment, you know, like in the kitchen and so forth and so on. Now, in a city like Monona, the family is responsible for their own utilities and their own furnaces and their own washing machines and so forth. But here, the Oakwood is responsible. So that's quite a difference between being on boards in a city like Monona and being in here. But I didn't. I never. I never had any. I don't know. What do you want me? What else would you like to know about that?
Well, was there any? Do you have any accomplishments or any important things that you did when you were a part of all these different organizations and things? Any?
Well.
Or as a whole, as a bigger picture, were you helping with different things that in Monona that was?
Yeah. Well. I was active, but I didn't. I don't remember. Well, I remember one thing that happened when I was on the public safety or the Public Safety Commission. One thing that happened that I was in charge of some responsibilities there, and one of the things that I wanted to do was get a crosswalk between the high school and get a crosswalk across Monona Drive. And it's absolutely amazing how difficult it was to do that, because in order to get the permission to get a crosswalk across from the high school across Monona Drive, so that people leaving there and going west could cross the highway without any fears, you know. So that's the whole reason for it. Well, I had to go through a board there in Monona. I had to go through a township board. I had to go through a medicine board, had to go through a county board, I had to go through a state board, I had to go through 5 different government boards in order to get a permission to get a crosswalk across Monona Drive. And I finally got it, but can you imagine not having a lot of problems getting a crosswalk on a busy across a real busy street from a high school? The trouble that I had doing that. But anyway, that was I'd say one of the highlights of my time during Public Safety Commission. But
You finally got it.
yeah, finally got it. Yeah, so there's a crosswalk there, and down further down, you probably you know Monona, and further down on Monona Drive, of course, there are crosswalks from the place where they do business down there. There's a crosswalk down there, and a lot of times people don't use it. They just cross the highway just on their own. But one of our doctors was killed because he didn't go down there where the crosswalk was. He just was going to go where he wanted to go, and he got hit by a car and died. Wow. Killed. Anyway, I'd say that was my most important thing that I did, and it's just I understand now they're trying to they want to settle the Monona Golf Course. Is that right?
There was some talk about it. I don't know if they're gonna go through with it. It might develop part of it and leave part of it. I don't know how they're gonna.
Well, I hope they don't, because that's real nice there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyways, so then you were a teacher at Monona Grove High
Right.
School.
Yeah.
And
I taught economics.
okay. Well, what did you like most about that?
Well, I was an extemporaneous speaker. I never used notes. Every class was a little different. And when I came here, I found out that I had an awful lot of the people here had their sons and daughters had me as a teacher. And that's a lot of satisfaction, because they were very nice about me as a teacher, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. But I just, once a teacher, always a teacher. I'm always talking around here to people about our really bad situation in our country and in the world, in terms of a lot of it's economics. I mean, our huge debt, and the big loopholes in our income tax laws, and the tremendous need for infrastructure, repair. All these things are kinds of things that are associated with economics. So my economics background has been a part of my life, really. And not only as a teacher, but even since then. And Monona has changed a lot. Of course, you know better than I do, I'm sure, but it's all hemmed in by it can't expand, because it's all hemmed in by Madison's and so forth. So, and so the people that lived there when I was teaching there and when I was going there were relatively young at that time. Their kids grew up and they graduated, and then other people moved in, and a lot of them are older people. They didn't have any kids, and Monona just have a heck of a time growing. I don't even know what the population is now.
I'm not sure.
It's not. I know it's not. I know darn well it's not over 9 or 10,000.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you were only, were you involved with anything else at Monona Grove High School? Just economics?
Well, I coached. I coached at the high school, and I was a coach of. I coached all the pole vaulters there for 18 years. I was a state judge for the pole vaulting for 26 years. Well, Monona, and I was on the clock for all the football games. I was on the clock for the football games. I was on a mic for all the basketball games, and so I was active other than just teaching.
Did you play sports yourself?
What's that?
Did you play sports yourself when you were young?
Did I what?
Did you play sports when you were young?
Oh, did I pole vaulting and so forth?
Anything.
Well, yeah, I played. I was on the basketball team in high school. Yeah, I was captain in my last year, and I was on a golf team for 24. I played golf from the time I was 10 years old because I had a sister, her husband were golfers, so they took me along, and I started out at 10 years old. Anyway, I don't know if I
What was Monona like when you were first moved there and a long time ago? How is it different than it is today, and how has it changed?
well, of course, when I first came there, why an awful lot of the families there were brand new, and their kids were just getting ready to go to school, and so that a lot of that happened while I was there. That they grew up and went through school there, and I just I think a part of my I think I really, as I said, I taught economics, but a really and very important and very nice part of my career there at Monona in the high school was in sports and working with the sports program there, and in football, basketball, and so forth. I was active in terms of helping out, and I didn't coach football or basketball, but I did coach track, and
And that was a pretty new school then, wasn't it?
it was what?
A new school.
Yeah, relatively. Yeah. It was. I started there just 2 or 3 years after it started. I think it was started in 1955, and I started teaching, I think, in 1957, something like that. So, yeah, it was relatively new at the time. Yeah.
And what did you like most about living in Monona? What?
Well, very friendly community. Everybody knew everybody else. It's a small city, so that wasn't unusual. But I think one of the toughest things about living in Monona is finding your way around in there. There's so many short streets, and streets go this way, streets go that way, and so forth. But yeah, it's I No, I guess I misunderstood Marge when she said that you were going to interview me. I thought she was going. I thought you were going to interview me about my military career. Being from Monona, of course, but I mean, somebody from Monona that was in the military. But and that was of course, my military career was before I got to Monona, so
Right.
it wasn't a real part of that. I never did join any of the organizations. I should have, but I didn't. You know, the VFW or the American Legion or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I was very, when I got out, I got out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was retired. I was retired when I was 22 years old. I was retired, and I was retired as a first lieutenant, and 22 years old. And one of my best friends here at Oakwood is a Air Force retiree, but I kid him because he's a brigadier general, retired brigadier general, and I kid him because I say, "You're a brigadier general, a real good friend of a first lieutenant." See, it wouldn't happen in the military, but now that we're out, why, you know, you can be good friends. Yeah, but anyway, that has anything to do with Monona, though.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Was there any businesses or stores or places in Monona you like to patronize, or you went to a lot?
Well, I'll tell you, I lost. My wife had died when I was living in Monona, my first wife, and I never learned I had 5 sisters. They kept me out of the kitchen, so I never learned how to cook. I did try a little bit for 2 years after my wife died to fix some of the stuff myself, but I was very much associated with a place called Fat Jack's. I don't know if you ever heard of the place or not.
Yeah.
Restaurant there in Monona, but I was there. I ate a lot there, and when they opened that place, I said, you know, with a name like that, you're not going to get any women here, Fat Jack's. And for a while they didn't, because then people got used to it, and it became pretty popular. Yeah. Do you still live over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, well then you know that Buck and Honey's have a new restaurant there in Monona.
Yeah, we just went there the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, I know where that is. It's right next door to what they used to call the Yacht Club.
Yeah.
And right on the river there. And my daughter's wedding reception was held there in that building right next to where Buck and Honey's is. And so I was really very much used to that area there. But I haven't been over there to Buck and Honey's yet for them. I've been a lot of Buck and Honey's over here a lot, but I haven't been to the new one.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're doing okay.
Yeah.
I think Monona needed another restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
What did you like to do for recreation? Did you?
well, I played golf on the golf course there. I played golf. As a consequence of my arm like this, I started playing golf when I was 10 years old. When I went in the service at 18, I had played in a lot of tournaments even before I was 18. So, but then when I got out, one of my sisters said, oh my God, Dutch won't be able to play golf anymore. But I fooled him. I played golf for 40 years after I got out with one arm. Played with one arm.
Wow.
And, but,
On the Monona golf course there? Is that where-
yeah. So I played a lot on the golf course there. And, yeah.
And I guess the Dean House there used to be the clubhouse for the golf course years ago.
Yeah, yeah, the Dean House, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, really, and it was for a long, long time. And the first tee was right outside there, outside the door there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You remember that place when it was the clubhouse?
What's that?
You remember when that was the clubhouse?
Oh sure, oh sure. Yeah, I remember some things about that. I enjoyed playing with one arm for 40 years. Out there, right there at Monona, right outside there where the first tee was, I was over there with Mr. Schwann, our superintendent, and a couple of other guys playing golf. And of course, I had to shoot. I played one-handed, one-handed. And it was in the fall when we were playing there one day with them, and I hit a ball off the tee, and I happened to be lucky enough to get about 200 yards with one arm. And heard some lady back at me say, I heard her say to somebody, oh, look at that guy there, showing off, playing with one arm. And my superintendent heard her, so he went over to her, tapped her on the shoulder, and said, listen, lady, if that guy had used the other arm, his left arm had been left out probably farther than the golf ball. And he explained then what happened and then she apologized. But that was, see, I had a jacket on. It was a sweater anyway, because it was the fall. Ordinarily, if it had been just without seeing my brace, then he'd known. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. Played in a lot of tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my
So the Monona was right by the lake and the Yahar River and all that. You went all into the outdoors at all? Did you ever go fishing or anything like that?
well, no, I never went fishing.
No.
I'm not a fisherman,
Okay.
but I enjoyed I enjoyed everything there in Monona. I particularly enjoyed the main area there. I guess they've added on to that now, haven't they?
What?
Oh, incidentally, I'll tell you one thing about my athletic thing there. Do you remember? Did you know John Clement?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he was the athletic director,
Okay.
and he had me start the hockey program there at Monona
Oh, yeah.
in 1960,
Wow.
and so I started the hockey program. Madison schools all had hockey teams, and we were just starting, and a lot of guys I couldn't get for hockey. In order to have a rink, you've got to have a big machine to clean that rink off all the time, and it's very expensive. The machine and the hockey rink is very expensive to build and to maintain, and I couldn't get the city and the school district to join to build a hockey rink, and so I quit the program after 6 years because they wouldn't. I was going to Madison for renting, taking my station wagon, loading kids over to the golf course or to a hockey rink over in Madison, and renting from them, and I just got so to heck with it, and so I quit the program, but Anyway, as what was else I was going to say about? Yeah, let's see. Well, I was thinking of something that was important for me that I did there, and important was, for me anyway, in Monona. I can't think about what it was now. I'm trying to think of what it was. Been a long time since I've even thought about too much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was this. But
So you were around and when the Kennedy assassination happened.
oh, sure. I was walking down the hall when one of my students said President Kennedy had been shot. I remember exactly where I was. And I was going to my class of economics. And when I got in the classroom, we talked about it. And while I was in there at that time, they announced over the loudspeaker that he had died.
Wow.
You know, it's just, yeah.
What did everybody think when that happened?
Oh my. Yeah, he was a good guy, you know. And I've often wondered though about whether that guy that evidently shot him, but he didn't live very long either because somebody else shot him. But yeah, I wish I could think of what it was that I thought was kind of important, and I can't remember what it was now. That's easy.
We were talking about hockey.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they've got a good hockey team there in Monona now. They restarted it after Bob Johnson came to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin became prominent in national hockey. Then Monona wanted to have a rink. See, what a difference it made, having Bob Johnson come to Wisconsin and being a big thing nationally for Wisconsin. And then they got a rink. But they didn't want a rink when I was there. But anyway, it's just...
How long were you teaching at Monona Grove?
How long did I live in Monona? 42 years.
And how long were you at Monona Grove High School?
Oh, well, I taught for 20... I don't know whether 28 or 28 years, I guess. Taught economics.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And what would you tell someone who was just moving to Monona?
That somebody just moving into Monona?
What would you tell them?
What would I tell them?
Yeah.
I'd tell them it's a heck of a nice place to live.
Yeah.
And I can say that sincerely. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know you were friends with some of the other teachers at the school, like Bob Bean.
Oh yeah. Bob's a good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good friend. I'm the one that brought Bob Bean to Monona.
No kidding.
Yeah. I was chairman of the sociology department. And I and Bob were in an economics class together at the university, and I thought he was a math major, and he thought I was, because it was an economics class, and then we found out that we both went to Beloit College, and I graduated about 4 years earlier than he did at Beloit College. And so I knew Bob, and he was teaching down in Albany someplace, and I brought him to Monona to teach. So he left his position down there, he came to Monona.
And he taught history?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have Bob Bean? Or do you even go to school there, huh?
No, I know Bob Bean though, because
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been involved.
Yeah,
with
you
him.
know, you're a very bright fellow and a very nice fellow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
been
you're a good
involved.
friend. You're a good friend.
Yeah. He's been involved with the Dean House a lot.
Oh, my. If it wasn't for him, that place would have gone to pots.
Yeah.
Bob Bean, they should be calling it the Bean House instead of the Dean House.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Did you interview Bob?
Not yet. I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be an interesting pure. He's a very active fellow. And he's the one that saved the Dean House.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered most of it here.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, well, see, it's not important, of course, but it's just as one of the part of my life. I've since I was retired in 1946. I'm the longest retired Air Force officer in the history of the Air Force. In number of years retired. I was retired when I was 22 years old, and I'm 95. So you can figure out how long I've been retired. 73 years. That's a long time to be retired from anything, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
It's the longest in the history of the Air Force I've been retired. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's not much of a distinction, but it's kind of interesting. It's not important, but it is significant. What do they call it? This outfit that keeps records.
Oh, yeah.
The Guinness.
Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people wanted me to be in there, and but they want proof, and in order to get proof, they have to go back to where when I was. I better get on the phone, I guess.
All right.